Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, says food security is attained when all people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. And to attain the above, farms in Nigeria must be able to produce food items at a consistent high production level with unhindered transportation system. Joining us now is Dr. Babatope Alex and Benedict Akombo, both Nigerian farmers. Good morning and welcome to the morning show.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Incidentally, all the farmers that I know are all corporate looking. Unlike the farmers of old. But we're faced with a serious situation. We hear, about food protests all over, whether it's in Mina or on the streets of Kano, yes, or Suleja, or even parts of the southern part of Nigeria. Now, you have the farmers. What exactly is the problem? Is it that food is not available, or that food has become so expensive that Nigerians cannot afford to feed themselves? Where are the challenges from your perspective as farmers? Well, who do we start with? Let's start with you, Benedict. Benedict, you are with us in the studio here in Lagos. Let's start with you. And then we'll go to Dr. Babatope Alex.
Good morning.
I would say that
Good morning.
some of the issues are multifaceted. The insecurity in some parts of Nigeria, as right now at the moment, contributes much more, to the situation. But by and large, we feel that if some of these things are tackled, we might not find ourselves where we are. The major contributing factor to the high cost of food right now, I would sum it up to food and transportation. I'm not sure there's shortage of food. I'm not sure farmers are greedy. But, cost components going into production, transportation, logistics is very, very high. So that is where we are. That's where we found ourselves. Are there ways around this? I think so. But we have not, tackling what we should tackle. Insecurity in some places increase transportation costs. Logistical issues, there are some road that is just 20 kilometers, but because you're avoiding the problem along that particular route, you take another route that is 80 kilometers just to achieve the same purpose of moving goods from A to B. So you can take away some of these cost factors from the eventual cost of food to an average man on the street. That is where we are, and that is why we have skyrocketing cost of food.
Okay, you are Dr. Babatope Alex, right?
Yes, I am.
Benedict is in the Abuja studio. So, Benedict, over to you.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, the Arise team. The major issue affecting food security in Nigeria is because of the lack of improved varieties, input, and also lack of support and incentives from the government. Nigeria has been an agrarian economy for a very long time. We have not really moved from the subsistence level of production to mechanized production. And the population of this country keeps increasing. Now there's a general increase in price of goods and services. And you cannot expect agri-produce to remain the same. The production of this agri-produce depends on inputs. And some of these inputs that are imported, like you see the tractors and herbicides, most of those things are not produced in Nigeria. And with the devaluation of the Naira and the current instability in the forex market, you cannot expect the price of food to remain the same. It must increase in accordance with the way other products or other commodities the prices are increasing too. So it's just normal that there's a general level of inflation in the economy. But other factors too contribute to the general increase in the price of food items. Like Doctor mentioned the issue of insecurity. There are a lot of states that up to now, almost half of their population are not going they're not accessing their farmland because of insecurity. Like the Benue state where I come from, the major part of Logo, Guman, Gwe West, and these are the areas, and even Ukum local government. These are the areas that produce a lot of agri-produce, and they are not going to their farm because of headers farmers clashes. So insecurity is part of it. But I want the federal government to have a serious interface with the state governors, the ones that the states are actually producing a lot of agricultural products. Let them know the kind of incentive. Let them know the projects they are going to embark on to improve the agricultural production. The population keeps increasing, so we can't, continue doing, producing the same level we used to produce. We need to increase in accordance with the level the population is growing. So the government needs to really do a lot in regards to that. With federal government, they are doing they are doing very well in regards to this, because I discovered that the National Agricultural Fund that was instituted by the previous administration, about 100 billion was voted for that project to improve agriculture. Let's know what each state, especially those states that are they have comparative advantage in agriculture. Let us know what they are doing to improve agricultural production. Then the government can work on incentives to see how they can reduce the cost of production, and also give incentives to people so that more Nigerians can go into agricultural business. Let it not be a subsistent, business. Let us commercialize agricultural production in Nigeria.
Well said. Well, Mr. Akombo, I believe that a number of Nigerians wouldn't mind taking up going into the agricultural sector. Unfortunately, there are a number of barriers or obstacles that hasn't made this a reality. But I want to ask you a question with regards to the fact that the federal government believes that there's food in the land. It's just that it's expensive. Do you agree with that statement, that we have enough food? I mean, following the special presidential committee on emergency food intervention, the meeting following that, Minister of Information alluded to the fact that there's food. It's just that, number one, price is a factor, and distribution might be a channel, and even some people taking advantage of current economic realities to hike up prices of food. Is this your reality? And then, Dr. Alex, Mr. Akombo talked about the fact that there are a number of intervention programs, including that 100 billion voted for support of farmers. Have you benefited from any of such interventions? And can you share your experience with how it was, the process of allocation, how you benefited? And in the case you haven't, what should be done for more transparency, accountability, and so that farmers themselves can access these interventions? I'll start with you, Mr. Akombo.
Okay, I'm in the same, I told the same line with federal government. There is food in Nigeria, there is food in Nigeria, but the issue is that there's a general increase in the price of goods and services. So food cannot be an exemption, because the process of taking that food to the market, there's a cost attached to it. And before you transport your goods to the market or whatever, you have to pay extra charges. And even those farmers too, they are still in the same economy that we are. So you cannot expect them to sell their food at a cheaper rate. Meanwhile, when they go to farm or when they go to the market to buy meat or buy apparel or whatever, or inputs to make them produce more, they will buy at a very exorbitant rate. That will make them unable to produce more. So they need to also increase the price of those commodities.
All right, so you're saying there's food, despite the insecurity you've cited, there's food in the land, despite the fact that farmers are not unable to go to their farms, there's still food in the land. The
insecurity I talked about is not everywhere. It's not everywhere. Even in Benue, like I said, it has just reduced the production capacity of the state. But there are other areas. I mentioned just for local government. There are other areas that are still going to farm and they are producing food.
Okay.
It has just reduced the number of, the number of tons that should have been produced.
Okay, that's very good news. Thank you very much, Mr. Akombo. Dr. Alex, maybe I should ask the first question as well. Do you agree that there's food in land? And then the question I asked you, I posed to you with regards to intervention programs. Have you been able to access any of it? And what are some of the challenges you faced?
Yes, I agree. There is enough, in most cases, enough food in Nigeria. Before now, you agree with me that most of the challenges that we have in that sector is post-harvest loss. And despite this post-harvest loss, we still have enough to feed ourselves. Now, we might not have enough for the rainy day. A nation should have strategic reserve for basic staples. We might not have that, but on the day-to-day, it is impossible for a Nigerian to have the money, go to the market, and not get the food to buy. The challenges associated with transportation, logistics to get a farm, the insecurity are there. Now, without this, the food price would certainly come down. Access to this would come down. It will be easier to access, but it doesn't change the fact that, yes, there is food. However, if we get some of these things right, it becomes easier to access and it will impact the price, and then the price will come down. It becomes affordable to an average person, and there will be zero to no price disparity, because you see in some places you have wide price disparity between what I can buy for X here, what I can buy for Y in another location. Now, for infrastructure, intervention funds, there are several attempts from one administration to another, to at least want to address the plight of the farmers. Some of these interventions are not properly thought of. The absence of them is not good, but at least is a step in the right direction. Now, if the government have taken cue, from the last one and improved on the next one, we will have gotten to a place where we now have a proper framework that an average farmer, small scale, medium, large scale, knows that if I am going into this fund is accessible and these are the criteria. So if the criteria are properly set and I know what to do to assess it, if I meet that criteria, I should automatically get it. That is not the case in Nigeria. So to answer the question, have you accessed? No, we have not accessed any fund.
So you're saying the criteria is set, and even though you as a farmer might meet all the criteria, you still don't access the fund?
It is not guaranteed.
Why?
Because of the Nigerian factor. Now, if you eliminate the Nigerian factor, it means that you are saying the first 200 people to meet this criteria get X amount. All you just need to show me is I'm not one of the first 200.
So it's not transparent?
It is not transparent. The criteria are not properly set, and sometimes it is set to exclude certain type of people. And that's why in the news you always see stories about people who are not farmers, do not have any business in farming. We just put together some papers, look good, and then access billions. And 2 years, 5 years down the line, the money is right off as bad debt.
Okay, so those are the political farmers.
Yes, paper farmers.
Paper farmers.
Yeah.
So, but we have political farmers and real farmers.
Yes.
People like you are the real ones cultivating. The political one are audio farmers.
Yes.
The ones that
I'm abstaining from using political. That's why I'm saying paper. Because some of them are not politically motivated. They are just people who understand the Nigerian system and they game the system. They might not be political.
Are they the ones that form pyramids?
Pyramid are just political statements to score cheap publicity.
Okay, let's go straight to a couple of issues. We talked about post-harvest losses.
Yes.
As we speak today, what access do farmers like you have for silos? Can I, by any chance, know what do you produce? What access do farmers like you have for storage? How do you store? What's your level, your percentage level of post-harvest losses? And what is the role middlemen are playing in your business arrangement?
Now, if we look at Nigeria as a whole, the only set of the only part of Nigeria that you see proper silos are up north, and that is because you have grains. Majority of grains come from the north because of the terrain. If it is government-led, government-owned, government-controlled, it's a chaos. Down south, you can't find any functional, properly managed, properly monitored silo. It's almost impossible. Warehousing system, it's one of the easiest and most effective way to curb, at least for most crop, post-harvest loss.
By the way, what do you plant? What do you...
So we were into short-time crops, but because of post-harvest, we have to do 3 crops. Now we do cashew, we do palm. All of this is, you are trying to adapt to the reality on ground because you can't provide all of the infrastructure you need yourself. Some of these an average local government should be able to provide it. It's not even state. But if the local government are incapacitated and the states have other priorities, then you have to look at what are your options. So what an average farmer is doing is, what can I do without recourse to the local or the state government? And that's why it's almost impossible for anybody to come up with an holistic solution to solve post-harvest loss.
So how many percentage are you experiencing in your business as we speak?
About 30 to 35%.
30 to 35%.
And it's because we're efficient.
Because you're efficient?
Yes.
In some cases, it goes over 50%?
Yes. Wow. And type of crops. Most fruit crops, most perishables, you have as high as 60, 70.
You said post-harvest loss?
Yes.
Tomato and the like. What about...
And watermelon.
And watermelon.
Yes. So and that's why it's expensive.
That's why, okay, because it spoils on time, because we can't store watermelon. That's
exactly.
And we even import, I hear. We import from neighboring countries like Benue, pineapple from Benue and all
yeah,
of that.
Because our borders are porous, it is easy for a lot of things to enter into Nigeria. Now, this Naira devaluation, if it's a government policy to devalue the Naira, let us know it's a policy. There are positive sides and negative sides to everything. Now, it's impossible, in fact, it's expensive for some of these things to find their way into the border because CFA is now more expensive than the Naira. Yeah. You know, so it's a win for the Nigerian farmers. There are things that you don't have to say, close the border for. It is not lucrative. But if you solve internal problem, you have comparative advantage. That means you can produce for less.
Let's talk middlemen, and we'll go to our friend in Abuja. Yeah. Middlemen, how are middlemen affecting your business?
They are opportunists. Middlemen are just people who are in the business, you know, because of the gap, the lacuna. You know, so there are opportunities. When they see an opportunity, they take it. And then the end users, the buyers who are direct consumers, feel the brunt. Okay,
let me come to you in Abuja, sir. Great to have you. Can you talk me through middlemen, post-harvest losses, the need for storage and silos? How have your business been impacted with all of these factors?
Yeah. For me, it's quite challenging because we don't have those facilities in my area, which is Benue. We basically use stores to store our goods, and those stores, they are not properly constructed for storage. So we always experience a lot of post-harvest losses. Sometimes we have experienced even fire outbreak in some of our stores, and it's quite unfortunate that there is even no insurance in place. So the losses are always been there. So like I keep saying, the government needs to have a parley with, the federal government needs to have a parley with both the federal, state government and local government. Because we are practicing a federation, but most times everything is left in the hands of the federal government to handle, which is not correct. The states and the local government need to know what they're doing to promote agriculture, to promote whatever policy that the government has put in place. So, and because we, the farmers, we don't have the capital to go into, constructing storage facilities on our own, we fall back to government for assistance. So if the government actually wants to create employment in agriculture, they really need to sit up and see how they can help the farmers whoever wants to go into farming, whether subsistence or commercial, so that they can have incentive to pursue their business without incurring so much losses. When those losses are incurred, you find it difficult to go into business in the next farming season. So it's something that needs to be taken, up seriously.
Okay, gentlemen, well, quickly. Well, number one, I would like to ask both of you. Yeah. I mean, some people have been sending me messages. They say, oh, truly, these farmers, they really look very corporate, very prosperous. They want to have an idea of what you do as farmers, where your farms are located, what kind of, crops that you plant and whatever. And then second, government has been talking about, plans to release food from the National Greens Reserve. What do we know about this strategic National Greens Reserve? What do we have in there? And each time government says, to assist people, food will be released from the National Greens Reserve, is it that they will just bring out this food and give us from household to household, like they did with trader money and whatever money, or this Greens Reserve are there, and they will wait for people to go and liberate the grains from the reserves. But just general information about that, strategy by government. We will release food from Greens Reserve. Okay, when? How? Where are these reserves? What is inside? Who do I start with? Let me start with you, Dr. Babatope.
Okay, so I'll start with the grain reserve.
Yes.
Now, ideally, the way it should be done is the basic staple in any economy, any country, should be kept in a strategic format so that you are sure that you can feed your people for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, depending on your capacity. Because when issues arise, it could be out of God, it could be war, it could be anything. You want to be sure that your sovereignty is not threatened because you cannot feed yourself. So that's why this is needed. And also, you can also use it to control price. So how should this be released, or how have they been releasing it? Only the government can answer how they've been releasing it. But the proper thing to do is to use your reserve to regulate price. If the price of maize or soya, for example, is going high, poultry will suffer. They are currently suffering. Why? Because the poultry field is a combination of majorly these two grains. So if you see a situation where the price is getting really high, you release a certain quantity into the economy, and the law of demand and supply would naturally take its course. So you are not feeding the populace, you are not giving it out for free, you are just trying to use it to control. In the case of COVID-19, where everybody was home and there is need to feed people, yes, you might have a palliative with such reserve. So the way government would decide to allocate or push this out will differ. But normally, it should be just to control price. And I say that I don't know how the government has and have been releasing this into because there's no transparency. Naturally, we should know at any given point in time what we have in reserve, but we don't have that information. Then to the second question, what do? We have our farms in Ogun and Oyo, some part of Ogun and some part of Oyo. The local government in Mekwafon, local government in Oyo, Lalate and Maya, we do a combination of cashew plantation and extensively plantain. And it's because these things are perennial.
Okay. Benedict? Benedict?
Okay, I will... Okay, I can hear you. Hello?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, for the first question you asked, my farm is in Benue. There is one in Go East local government. We do rice farming majorly, and there is one in Go West, also rice farming. We also process rice for, to process before we sell out. It's not as if we sell the paddy, we process it and sell out. They will also have a plantation in Go East. The second question you asked about the food reserve. Yes, I know that there are some food reserve, operated by federal government. They're like my other doctor said, I don't really have the information on how they plan to distribute those grains there. But I know that there are reserves of grains. Basically, government go into those kind of transaction or endeavors so that they can to hedge against risks that might occur. Maybe there's a famine, or like you say now that we're having excessive increasement in the price of agri-produce. The government can go there and get some grains and reduce, and stabilize the price so that the common person can be able to, have access to food. But I want also to say that, the issue of food crisis is not just Nigeria. You know very well that during when Russia and Ukraine, when they started out, the crisis in Russia and Ukraine, is part of the issue that we're facing in Nigeria, and that's caused across the whole world. So government on their own, if they have those grains in their reservoirs, they should bring it out and see how they can, distribute to the common people, and let them have access to food, so that this suffering can, be alleviated. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Akombo. Very quickly, as we begin to wrap up, 3 quick wins. Because amidst all the conversations we're having this morning, what Nigerians want to hear is how can food get on their table and be more affordable? The federal government is currently meeting. They had the first of the series of their meeting on the Special Presidential Committee on Emergency Food Intervention. What are 3 quick wins to ensure that, at least in the very near future, the price of food comes down and people are able to afford to eat? Very quickly, 3 quick wins. Or, if you have up to 3. I'll start with you, Dr. Babatope, and then I'll go to Mr. Akombo.
So if we look at the issues, I think the easiest thing the government can do is to do a thorough assessment of the current infrastructure for logistics. We know they've spent a lot of money to put the train up. Can we start leveraging that to move cargo? It is going to be the most efficient and the cheapest way to move some of these food cargos. It's almost impossible for you to move a trailer from Maiduguri or from anywhere up north down to the southwest without paying millions. And this will impact, in fact, in some cases, the transport is more expensive than the cost of the produce that it carries. So I think if they can quickly implement this, it would be at least a relief for some food items, coming from some certain part of the countries that we have an existing rail line. Right. Insecurity might be difficult, but it is easier to secure some certain clusters. Some farmers operate in clusters. Identify some of these clusters and give them adequate security. We know that you cannot solve insecurity overnight, especially the kind of insecurity we are facing, banditry and some other farmers clashes here and there. They are beyond what anybody can just fix overnight, because some of these things have happened. But if you can protect and provide security to farmers who are currently operating in clusters, you will have, solved some of these issues. So I think those are major quick wins that can be implemented almost immediately.
Okay, thank you. Very quickly, Mr. Akombo. 1 or 2 quick wins.
For me, the government should profile some states. They don't look at those states that are into higher agri-production, have discussion with the various state governors and the local government chairmen. For instance, like Benue State, Nigeria is the highest producer of yam in the whole world, cost of Benue State. How do we increase the production of yam in the next 1 year or 2 years, double it? Right now, there's a market in Benue, which is Zakibia market, that gives out at least 200 trucks of yam every day. How can we double that? Let's have this. Okay, there's a Kebbi State that produces a lot of rice. There is a Taraba State that rice and yam. There is a Nasarawa State. They should profile them and see how they can, double the production. If there are insecurity challenges in those states, and they should see how they can be resolved. Not just resolved wholly, but it can mitigate them and see how production can keep increasing. The economy of Nigeria cannot solely depend on importation of food items, or even if we are importing even 50%, is not correct. Let us produce what we can consume. And we should, let's share away from, importing things that we don't need, so that we can have enough for ourselves. If the federal government and state government is able to see how they can even carry out, improve, agricultural, techniques. Like you see, Niger State, the other time they went into agreement with John Deere. John Deere is going to give them like 100 tractors. Other states can go into, 1,000 tractors. Other states can go into this so they can increase their production. We need to commercialize agricultural production. It's high time we stop the subsistence level of agricultural production in Nigeria. If we continue with that, we cannot move forward in terms of food security.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Benedict Akombo and Dr. Babatope Alex, for your time with us this morning, just examining how we can begin to respond in the immediate and long-term food insecurity in Nigeria.